hour, and I'm gonna just we're gonna start doing an activity. I'm gonna learn a lot about you. You're gonna learn a little about me. This is not a webinar, y'all. So if you guys are joining this expecting to not participate and have your cameras off, know that I'm hoping, are we going into breakout rooms? Am I gonna be able to do that in this call? No. Yes?
No, no.
Okay, well, know that this is an interactive session, that we want you to talk to each other. I'm going to ask some questions to you, and I'm going to start by telling my story. My story is about a girl who grew up in New York City, who came from two parents who were artists, and I was born in the 1968 time. So if you know anything about artists, you know that if they're not famous, they don't make a lot of, what would you guys say? And you guys can unmute or write in the chat box today. Right, like what would you say if you know anything about artists? If they're not famous, they don't make a lot of what? Yes, Miss Emily, thank you. Right, they don't make a lot of money. So we grew up with not a lot of money. My parents got divorced when I was 6. By when I was 3, by the time I was 6 years old, I was taking the city bus back and forth to my mother's and my father's, packing my own bag on my own. And then we realized that my father had a substance abuse issue, and my mother started working in prisons, and she started doing theater games with inmates, and then they did a theater piece where they became storytellers of their own past in America, mostly African-American men, talking about inequity and racism, and that was in the early 1970s. It's so crazy that we're still having these conversations now. And my father met a woman who was from England, whose father was really wealthy. He was the founder of Penguin Books. If you guys know about Penguin Books, give me a yes inside, the chat box. I'm going to try to engage you as much as possible today. So you can say, yes, you know about Penguin Books. And she was married to a rich person, and she introduced the rich person, the husband, to my father. And she and my father, they had this crazy affair, and my mother fell in love with somebody in the prison, and he came to live with us, and he was from Harlem, and he had a pick in his hair, a gold chain, a silk shirt, and he stepped in to be like my father. And my father's girlfriend and her husband, they didn't like kids, and whenever I was around, I was to be seen and not heard. When she came down to New York to visit, hi Monique, when she came down to visit in New York, they gave me the keys to my own apartment when I was 11. They told me that they didn't really want to see me. So I was 11 years old. My mother lived with an ex-con. My father gave me my own apartment. He had a substance abuse issue. What a crazy childhood, right? So I'm going to pause right here. If you could use the chat box. Now tell me, what do you think a kid like Julia is feeling? A student is feeling right now with a divorce home, substance abuse, different parents, kind of in and out of, what do you think a kid like Julia is feeling? Okay, unwanted, confused, alone, abandoned, lonely, confused, unwanted, yeah, scared, ill-equipped, yeah, great. So true, all of these things, yeah, sad, yeah, and so what happens to kids like that? If you have kids in your programs like that, what happens to kids like that? How do they start to act? How do they start to behave? What are they feeling? We could try it that way. What are they feeling? Look for a group to belong in. Yes, disconnected, out of control, burned out. Yeah, angry or tense for sure. And that's a good one, right? Dramatic. Yeah, frustrated. Yes. Right. And angry, like Julia was an angry kid, right? And I decided to act out my frustrations, right? I hurt people. That's right, Gina, right? I actually was a bully. I got into fights. I hurt people, right? With my hands. I fought on the subways of New York City. The girl you see right now is very different than the girl who was growing up with those, you know, in those circumstances. And here's another question for you. Do you have kids now who feel that way, the same way? Do you have kids who feel the same way now? Yeah, totally, right? And so even 45 years later, right, we're still having this to deal with the same issues. The things that have changed are the external world, right? The external, the current events, social media, access to technology, access to media. Just that's the one of the things that's really altering how our kids are behaving. So anyway, I'm gonna cut this short, but I did get a B minus in school, in high school, and I did get into a college, and I left New York. We got the urban girl out of New York City. It was a big culture shock. I went near Buffalo, New York, and it was mostly Caucasian, white people. I had grown up in a very diverse background. It was rural. I was an urban city kid, 1986, big hair, gold chain, smoked Newports like in college, like crazy time. But I got through college in 4 years. I came out of college. I decided to volunteer in after school programs because I thought I had a message for urban youth. Like, what could I tell kids, you know, about my story? And then I was acting in New York. I took after my mother. I did pretty good. I worked off Broadway. And then I went to California to become a famous movie star when I was 30 years old, except that that didn't work out. Another like, bam, like a hit in the head, didn't work out. Living on credit cards, no health insurance, 32 years old, like my life had not even begun. And I had a breakdown, like another rough patch to get over. And I talked to a friend and I said, all I want to do is work with kids. And he said, well, what's stopping you? And I was like, what do you mean? And so anyway, I started working with kids. I was 32 and I worked for several organizations now, from the After School All-Stars to the Tiger Woods Foundation, running character education curriculums and writing curriculums for first generation kids going into private or liberal art colleges. And then 4 years ago, I bumped into my old friend, Jeffrey Jordan, who is also in New Jersey suffering from power outages right now, so could not be here. And so anyway, he's a certified holistic wellness coach. I'm now an SEL expert after 15, 16 years, and we took the best of both of us and we made some tools for in school and out of school time educators and even just humans like adults to use on really helping get themselves through, I don't know, crisis or regular day to day. And it's all around social emotional IQ and wellness. So today, what we're going to do is we are going to do one of the activities. We're going to spend about 40 minutes on it. And I'm going to show you all the different ways you can use it for staff and for students. Does that sound okay? Okay, great. And if you feel at any time you want to show your gorgeous faces, we love to see your faces. We're so happy to see you here. So I'm going to pull up, and can I share my screen? Yes, I can. Okay, I'm going to pull up a PowerPoint right now. The question in the PowerPoint is going to be, right, and maybe Paula, you could write this in the chat box. What challenges are you currently facing? What behavioral challenges are you currently facing with youth today? And are you using any strategies? So what behavioral challenges are you facing with youth today? And what strategies are you using? So I'm going to pull up, if you guys can throw your answers in the PowerPoint or even unmute and start to talk in this crazy new virtual world. Your voices are important while we're learning how to use technology. So we'd love to hear from you too. And I'm going to pull up the PowerPoint. Okay. And if you let me share my screen, that would be amazing.
Are you not able to share your screen?
It says host has disabled participant screen sharing. Okay, thanks. All right. Okay, that's me. You just heard my story. That's actually from Beyond School Hours this year, before COVID happened. Oh my gosh, a world time ago. So here's the question, right? What are your biggest challenges of student behavior, and what strategies are you currently using? So either unmute or put your answers in the chat box. That would be amazing. We will start to read them out loud as they come up. Right, so great. So we have, I think a lot of the kids in after school program are hyper emotional. They are super sensitive and cry a lot. Thanks, Bianca. Kenneth says we have students who are frustrated and stressed by COVID-19, sure, and largely being restricted to home. We have to let them help design our after school virtual programs. Beautiful. We have given them shorter days and days where they just want to talk about how they feel. Beautiful. The tool we usually use is calming area, where they have sensory toys. Okay, so Bianca, sounds like you're working with young kids. Jessica, Headspace, that's an app, right? Or that's what is that? Right?
It's an app for meditation that you can use with kids as young as like 3, 4,
yeah,
and goes all the way up through adulthood.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I also use the Calm app. That helps me go to sleep at night. Before COVID, Amy says bullying, during COVID, sadness, wanting to see friends but not being able to, and now scared by media. Yes, wow, powerful. Gina says in Outreach, when we work with teenagers, so many of them are angry and don't know how to process that anger, nor what's underneath that anger. We use art and theater. Beautiful. You know, you're in my wheelhouse, Miss Gina. Rhonda says we use safe spots, SEL practices, conscious discipline in our programs. Okay, great. Okay, amazing. So all of these feelings, pre-COVID, true, post-COVID, truth. We hear, you know, also, I mean, and during COVID, not post-COVID, right? And so what we're going to do today, and you know, and the other thing that I hear a lot is about entitlement, right? Like put your thumbs up or something in the chat box. Do you feel like this generation has a lot of entitlement things going on, where for some reason they feel like the world owes them something, where entitlement used to be where rich kids were entitled? Now it's like all kids feel like the world owes me something, and they don't want to work hard, right? And they feel like they're supposed to be the ones who were getting everything without having to maybe work hard, go to college. They go, why do I have to do it? So what we know as practitioners is, one, the work, and we do this great in after school, the work has to be relevant to them. It needs to mean something to them, right? So whatever we create, whether it's enrichment or whether it's academics, however we're teaching it, it needs to connect to, how does this serve me now? You know, and the other thing I want to say is, you know, we're not going to solve all your problems today. Maybe you thought we were, we're not, but we are going to give you strategies and a tool to use to begin helping kids talk about their feelings in a structured way, a productive way that is not, right, that this is not just going to kids, I just want to see you. Oh, I can't really see you, but if you ever want to turn on your camera, I'm going to say this all session long. Turn your camera on so we can see you. And if you, that kids, it's hard if you say to a kid, hey, how are you feeling? Right? Like, then they're going to be like, I feel vulnerable when you ask me that question, so I don't want to share my feelings, right? So we have to figure out in SEL ways that it's not so confronting. You know, what happened during COVID? You ask a kid that, and if they had a loss of a life, or parents lost their jobs, or they moved, they might be embarrassed in this online way. Or if you are working with kids in person, you don't know how they're going to answer you. So I'm going to put this, some of you have joined again. If you can pull this up on your own laptop, and if you have a printer, print it out. But we use this tool. It's called the Holistic Wellness Wheel. And it looks like, let me go back to that one. We're going to talk about these 5 strategies in the Holistic Wellness Wheel. We're going to talk about mind and mindfulness, body awareness. How are you taking care of your body with breath, with movement, with food? How do you use food for, really healthy habits? Community connection, teamwork, building relationships, empathy, cultural diversity and tolerance, digital and social media balance. I'm really talking about that right now. Is important to have a conversation. And then putting any of these practices into real time. We call it like real time SEL. How are they using this? How is it relevant? How is it a 21st century skill? Their own self-awareness to become a 21st century skill is so powerful. So the document that I have put into the chat box is for you to print out and use with your students or your staff. You can use it with both of them, and there's so many ways to use it. We're going to start right now. If you can print it, again, I'll say it again, that's the best way to use it today. Otherwise, do I have annotation features here? Yeah, great. So otherwise, I'm going to walk you through how to use this tool. And the first thing you do, and this is pause for a second, Julia, this is for 6th grade and above. We have a K-5 that I can send through Paula that will send you later. It's simplified. There are less sections. There's only 5 sections in the wheel in that case. And so there's 10. And you'll see in here that there is some research embedded in it too. But I'm going to talk to you about these sections. The document I sent you on the Google Drive should have a second page with the definitions. So that's going to help you. And what you're going to do is we say plot your dots. We're going to plot your dots. So you'll see what I do right now. I'm going to talk you through my home environment. That's not like, do you have a home? It's when you walk into your home, do you feel like, oh, I love being here. Oh, it's so clean and open air and so peaceful. I've done all these house projects. Or do you feel like, oh, it's such a mess. We're on top of each other. We're fighting with each other. My partner didn't pick up their socks. Like, I want to get out of my house, right? So if you're feeling like super great, you put a dot right on towards the outside of the wheel. If you are feeling not so great, be like, oh, it's a mess here, you put a dot towards the inside of the wheel. So if you are doing this in your office, you're just making a little dot, or if you're at your home desk, you're just making a little dot. If you do not have one, you can start to do it on my wheel if you know how to annotate. Also, if you can annotate. So I'm going to walk through these and then I'll show you. So self-awareness. Julia had a kind of crazy past. I had a lot of therapy, to be very honest with you. I am super self-aware, to a fault almost. Like, I'm so self-aware. Responsible decision-making. Actually, during COVID, I've gotten more responsible in taking care of myself, really paying attention to my family and my loved ones. So I'm making better decisions about how I treat myself. I'm the girl at 17, self-management and regulation. Julia, like fighting on the subway, no self-management and regulation, angry teenager. Today, I know how to manage when someone pisses me off. If I get into a fight, I have to remember that I'm an educator who teaches social emotional learning. So even if my roots are coming up like a New Yorker, I regulate my emotions now, right? I have increased my physical activity and movement, but I'm not doing as much as I want, so it's a little lower, right? And then my confidence is pretty high. I got to do a keynote for Beyond School. I was for about 1,000 people, woo, right? So I'm feeling pretty confident this year. Social and cultural awareness. I sit on a state team for equity and inclusion for the state of California, and I'm feeling pretty engaged, but always room for improvement. Digital and consciousness and screen time. This is not, do you have it? This is, are you balanced? And a lot of us are feeling Zoom fatigue right now. So we're shopping online like crazy. So it's like a little imbalance right now. So I don't feel, I'm on these calls, like 6 hours a day. Oh no, that's wrong, right? I don't mean that. I mean, hold on. I mean to do this here, right? I am not balanced at all. My relationship skills are pretty solid. I just, as an average, I'm a nice person. I'm a loyal friend. And my eating has gotten better, but it's not perfect. Okay, so that's what that. I'm going to go to the chat box. Hold on a second, and see here. Congrats. Oh, thanks, Chandler. Nice to see you. Yeah. Okay. So you are going to get the K through 5. So what I'd like you to do, if you are home and have printed this, is to plot your dots, right? You plot your dots. There's 10 sections, and take a few minutes to just plot your dots. And if you couldn't print it out, and you can annotate on your device, some devices will let you. What you do is, on the tab that says you are viewing Julia's screen, you click on that tab, and then you're going to see 3 dots that say annotate or annotation. And then you're going to click on those dots where it says annotation. You're going to see a second toolbar. And in the second toolbar, you're going to see it says text, draw, stamp, spotlight. Go to stamp. Go to stamp. And pick like a heart or a star, and then start plotting your dots on the screen, right? So there you go. I'm gonna move you down. That's right there. She's okay, great. So feel free to plot your dots. If you see that somebody's using the same thing as you, try the heart. If you want to draw, you can find the little dot. And make sure you can remember where your stars are. Everyone's using a star. So if you, because what's gonna happen next, good, thanks for using it, is that you're gonna do this. I'm gonna do it so that you see what's coming next. You are going to connect your dots. Oops, that's not right. Oh, I have to go undo. Undo, I made a mistake there. I'm just drawn to the hearts because I'm full of love. Hi, Enrique. Thanks for opening up your camera. So nice to see you.
Hello.
Hi.
How's everybody doing?
Better now that you're here.
Yay.
Hey. Good. Right, plotting your dots. Excellent, you guys. Oops, that's not. And if you can't do any of these, another way to engage online is to write down with numbers in the chat box, right? Mindful eating. If it's 1 to 5, 1 is on the lower side. Mindful eating, you would say, oh, right now I'm at like a 3.5. And then I would write home environment, I'm at a 9. Self-awareness, I'm at a 10. Responsible decision-making, I'm at a 9. Self-management regulation, a 9. Physical activity and movement, maybe a 7, right? So if you want to write it in the chat box, you can do it that way so that you are included, right? We're always trying to find a way with technology, right, today, because not everybody has the same kind of technology or ability, right? You can either A, print it out and do it with pen and paper. B, write in the chat box with a number. And then C, you can do it on the screen, which is, it gets a little bit confusing because we don't have that many tools, but you're more than welcome, right? I'm going to put an example to do mindful eating. And the goal is to, is to do all 10. Go ahead, Pamela, with that fancy arrow. Right, mindful eating. Right. See what I'm doing in the chat box. PA is physical activity. I'm going to say 3.5. I wish I were working out more. Yeah, 5. I'm in a relationship 5, closer to people now than I've ever been because of COVID. Right, so that's another way that you can be included in this. Okay, so take another couple seconds, like maybe, 20 seconds left on the wheel. Whoever that X person is, if you, yeah, okay, I see you drawing. Good job. Amazing. There you go, Linda. Going another 10 seconds. And then I will save this on my computer. And again, I'm going to send everything to Paula for her to shoot out to you guys afterwards so that you have these tools. But the visual document that she sends is a reminder on how to do this also. Beautiful. Okay, so I'm saving it. Right, it's in the folder. I'm gonna come back. Oh, let me see here. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna close this and see if I can get to the, yeah. Oh, I see. Okay, I'm gonna stop share. Okay, so here we are. Now, if we had breakout rooms, I would put you in breakout rooms right now, and we would start chatting about what we just saw, what those subjects are, how we're feeling. But I'm going to ask you now to open up your mics if you can, unmute yourself. And the question is in the chat box, I'm going to put it, is the first question is, what do you observe? I have to spell what observe about the wheel. What do you observe about the wheel for yourself, right? For yourself, as well as the actual activity. Like, what did you notice about how you're feeling in the wheel? What sections could you work on? What was surprising to you? So anybody who wants to talk, let's have a conversation. It's so awesome to talk right now. We need to talk. So let's try that.
Well, I found it interesting that response where did it go? I lost it. The one about movement and the one about eating were right across from each other, because that's where I'm definitely falling short during this crisis.
Yeah, and there's no reactions in this one, but if you feel like you're also falling short, or we say, by the way, Gina, our language is there's room for improvement, right? That you're not lower, you're not falling short, room for improvement. If you feel like you also have room for improvement on either mindful eating or physical activity, put something in the chat box to show Gina that she's probably not by herself, right? Who else is with mindful eating? Same here, Gina. Thanks, Emily. Right? Thanks for being honest. Anybody else feeling like, wow, mindful eating and physical activity, I'm so busy. Thanks, Rhonda. I think, yeah. Thanks. Yeah, right? My mindful is struggling, but I am keeping focus on it. Good. Okay, great. So Linda, if I'm in a group right now, this is a class and Linda's my student, I go, hey, Linda, could you do me a favor? Can you unmute and share what the focus is? Like, what are you focusing on? How are you working, even though it's a challenge? So I'm going to ask Paula to share.
Okay, because it's a struggle for me because I just recently lost weight. So even though I'm home every day and I like to snack, I think about how much weight I had on me to how much I lost. So I want to keep that up. So I just remember how I was.
And
I don't want to.
Mind control, Linda, mind control, right? Remembering, right. And you're remembering the work that you did and how valuable you are to yourself right now, right?
Right, yeah.
Work. Well, congratulations, Linda.
Thank you so much.
Okay, and then, okay, got Pamela, sorry, has her hand up. What do you have, Pamela? Maybe it's an accident. Pamela, can you hear us? Okay, let us know if you want to chat. I'm going to lower your hand. right? Okay, so mindful eating was the first one. Good conversation, thanks. All right, let's, what else? What else do you observe about the wheel? Look at those sections of the wheel: responsible decision-making, social media and digital balance. Like,
I
where are you
think
feeling? Go ahead, Enrique.
I just wanted to say, like, when you mentioned that about social media, like, we're home, and like you said, right now we need to talk, and that's the only way we're really getting to socialize with our friends and our family at this point, is to be on Facebook and all the social medias that we can use. And even for work, we're doing Zoom calls, we're in the emails all day, you know, opposed to like what we're used to. If you're like if you're hands on, then we're used to being so active with the kids and being on field trips, and I think this is just being really kind of like a shock to all of us, because our personalities, I guess, working with youth, were really similar, and I think that we really shows how we're affected by the digital and the screen time right now.
Wow. Thank you so much. You bring up so many points. Like, it would be hard to address just in the next 30 seconds, but I'm going to try. So the first one is, because we're home, we are on social media a lot, whether we're bored, whether we're looking for information. Some people like to be engaged in political conversations on Facebook. Some people are completely turned off. How many people have unfriended somebody during this time? Right? I mean, it's like, and you're like in the spiral, you get caught up and you don't even need to, like, I'll never do that. And all of a sudden you see, right, Emily, right? And it's been like, and it's been hard and upsetting, and our heart rate goes up when you start to see things like, and that's the way we're living as adults right now, because we're boxed in. So young people too, right? They're communicating, they're gaming, they're like taking pictures of themselves more than ever. They're looking for that kind of thumbs up, like, you know, validation on how they look, with girls with filters. It's not even who they are, right? Like, and they're getting validation. Like, it's a very confusing time. And, you know, if it's happening for us, definitely happening for them. Such a great conversation to talk about not getting rid of it, but how to balance it, right? How are we going to balance this right now? This is like a true thing that's going on. And we have to learn about our digital footprint. That's a great topic to talk about, 4th grade and above, right? Our civic responsibility online, you know, protecting yourself, safety for the young ones. And, you know, but these are conversations, right? And again, I'm not asking in any of these, if you look at that wheel, we are not asking what's wrong. How do you feel, right? We're doing it through the lens of a tool where they look, right? And you say, oh, and then I would say, how many people are feeling the same way, just like I did using like Linda about mindful eating? You know what happens during this? We're going to the store, we're shopping for 2 weeks because we don't want to go to the store again. Our refrigerators are full. We are at home and we're like, I have a break. I'm going to the refrigerator, right? And you're like, oh, I'm just going to pop in this. I'm just going to pop in that. And all of a sudden, you've got the COVID-10, right? Right? Craziness. Like, that's a real thing. So being able to talk about it is amazing. And then if you're working with youth with the wheel, sometimes it's easier to talk about, things that are easier first, just like eating and exercise, before you get into self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, because they are all tied in together. Like, there is a connection to them, because it's holistic, right? We say it's like really looking at a whole person. So what other observations do you have about the tool, about looking at the tool, whether it's about yourself, like where you're sitting on it, or about the actual tool for staff, or now for kids, for staff or for kids? What are your observations? What do you notice?
Maybe that
Go ahead, Avery.
My name's Avery. I work at the Boys and Girls Club in Milwaukee. I think it's really cool that you can see, kind of take and address issues based on how many people are feeling, you know, the same, or like really, really good about it, or really awful. You know, it's kind of gives you a roadmap of, you know, what do you discuss first and where do you go from there based on everybody's answers. I think that's a cool part of it.
Thank you. That's such a great observation. For sure. You can, when it's physically in front of you and you see like all of the different sections of it. If you're, I'm training in over 25 states, really like 3 a day. We do these things, and every state, some of them are hybrid, some of them are in person. They will have C-Kids. Some of them will only be working with Zoom or Google. So they can still, I want to point out, somebody said, I feel like kids are going to be shy to like show that they're not doing well. If they're at like a 1, maybe they don't want to show it. But if you do it in groups and other kids are being honest, because some kids are not shy, it helps them be like, oh, me too. Right? That me too right now in a time of crisis, to feel like we're not alone, right? We're all going through something, right? That's important, that they get a chance to say, feel, express, show. So when kids are courageous and are honest and they show that, and you have them working in groups, that gives them a chance to build a connection, to build community, a consensus really around how they're feeling, whatever area it's in. And then also, if young people or staff, again, I'm going to say for staff, if they're feeling really high in a certain area, I'm going to say, great, like just like I did with Linda, what are you doing? Like, share it with us. We need to know, right? Like you have something to share. And then I'm going to say to my young people, is there anything wrong with someone having a different experience during COVID than other people, right? Because there's this big thing going around, oh, we're all in this together. Well, not all of us have experienced this the same way. And some people have lost people, and some people have lost jobs. And this is going to be our kids. And so we're going to have to be sensitive and suss it out. But again, we're not walking into the program first and be like, did anyone lose somebody to COVID-19? Right? That's not the way we're talking to our kids. We're using a tool that's going to engage in a lot of conversation. Let me ask another question. Do you think that the holistic wheel stays the same? Like if you do it from 1 week to another? I don't think so either. Actually, I know it doesn't. And that's because we're humans, where we're not machines, right? There is no one size fits all in social emotional learning, right? Yes, we are moving targets, right? Like especially our kids, right? Our staff too, like, they're going to be shifting and moving. And so it's just a snapshot in time, right? It's on a piece of paper. We did it on August 5th. If we do it on August 12th, it's going to look different because we're different people. And maybe it goes up or down. Who knows, right? The goal is to work with staff and with kids and say, what could we work on this week? Let's pick a section of the wheel. Everyone seems to be struggling with mindful eating. What could we do? What's one thing we could do as a staff to support each other? We could do accountability groups, and we could have a text thread or a WhatsApp chat to say, hey, here's what I'm eating tonight. This is a great recipe, to inspire, not to take things out, to add things in, to add nutritious things in. That's a great way to look at it, instead of being like, oh, don't eat carbs. How about you switch to a whole wheat carb, or you have just a little smaller carb instead of not having any carbs, right? Like to start small, baby steps with everything. So you work with physical activity, your kids, everybody feels like, oh, I'm not out of shape. Great, can we do 10 push-ups tonight before we go to sleep? Maybe just 10. And if everybody said yes, say, yay, let's do it. And then we'll check tomorrow. Then next week, when we do the holistic wellness wheel, let's see where we move the needle, right? Starting small. That will inspire them to look at other sections and feel progress, something positive that they can control. Because the other thing is, there's a lot of people and young people feeling out of control right now. So the question is, what can we control, and how do we let our staff and our young people understand what they can control? And everything on the wheel, pretty much they can control, right? If they start to work on it with the support of classmates and staff. You can make a little intention, a goal, a baby step, because when you're doing that consistently, right? This is the thing about SEL and mindfulness. If you do it consistently, then you can make some progress and some little moves. So yes, Linda, I got you here. The other thing is, oh wait, I'm seeing a question. Hold on a second. Let me just get here. Okay, question. What happens if there's no change or the changes are super high or super low of staff or suits? So let's say if there's no change, I'm gonna say, well, what are you doing in that area? The chances are they're gonna say, oh, I didn't do anything, right? Like, so I'm gonna ask some questions around it. No change, you know? Okay, let's say it's around self-awareness. Well, did you do anything to increase your self-awareness? No. Did you try a journal? Did you try calling a friend when you weren't feeling well? Like, what are you doing to, like, you have to make a step, right? So that's what, if the changes are super high and super low, right? Or if the changes are super high and super low. I mean, if you see a kid who's going up and down and up and down, they're fluctuating, then I'm pulling that kid aside and saying, hey, let's have a conversation. If you're being honest right now, what's happening? Like, there seems to be a lot of things in your life. I'm not going to say the word drama, but that would indicate drama, right? Something big is happening, but I'm going to say on the side, hey, you know, Jesse, could we have a conversation? Your wheel is so dynamic right now. I want to know what's happening for you. What's happening, right? So again, snapshot in time, right? So 1, we can build community. 2, we can build conversation with the wheel. 3, it changes. 4, you have to make little intentional steps, you know, on this, so that there is movement. And if we go backwards, what are we setting our kids up for learning? If you do have something that goes lower, what are we saying to our kids about life? Well, that's a real question.
It's not that important.
Okay, you want to expand on that a little bit?
Well, if we're not doing anything in a certain area, we give it a lesser than status,
Okay.
like it's not that important. So I would think that the things that you are focusing on, those are the things that are most important to your students.
Okay, that's an interesting point. I never thought of it that way. I think sometimes not only is it less important, I think they either don't understand it or they're afraid. They're nervous about it, right? That's another thing too. But what I want to impress upon you is that if kids go, oh, I went down, I say, well, the only place to go from there is up, honey. So like, it's okay. And guess what? That's life. Sometimes 2 steps backwards. But you know what? You're going to be able to go. Now we have room to grow. We're going to just keep doing, because you know why? Because I'm teaching you resilience. I'm showing you that life doesn't happen up, up, up all the time. We are going to have dips. The world is in a big dip right now. We are in a big dip right now. It is not going to stay here, right? It may feel like that, but it's not going to stay here. Things will change, right? Gina said it's too daunting. We try to get the goal quickly and then there's no shortcut for some things. Yes, that's why baby steps, don't say, okay, we're working on physical activity and we're all going to run a marathon this week. Yeah, our wheel would go down, right? But can we do 10 push-ups? Can we start doing push-ups on our knees if we can't do our full body weight? Yes, right? So let's see, our lives are expendable. Knowing what we're lacking helps figure out what to work on. That's right, Emily. So understanding, especially if you're using this with staff, right? Understanding what you can control and what you can't control is going to be super important. There are going to be decisions made by the state that go down to your districts and how your schools are working that you cannot control. And you are going to get pissed off. I guarantee you're going to be like, oh, this week we have to do this. Oh, this week we have to do that. But what can you control? When you're seeing kids and you're seeing your staff, whether you're doing it through a virtual platform, whether you are in person, how are you making choices? How are you making responsible decisions in your life, in your apartment? How are you staying safe? How are you being kind to others? Are you working on your relationships? Have you been short-tempered with people? How do you work on that? Right? We have to model this for our staff and for our kids too. Okay, let's see. That's right. Small goals. Thank you, Gina. Okay. Any questions? Because I'm going to do a real quick. I'm going to do another activity real quick. All right. I'm going to do some real-time SEL. This is one of my favorites. I'm going to ask you guys. Most of you already have your cameras off. I'm trusting that you are listening with integrity and that you are showing up and you don't have 10 devices around you and that you are present and you are listening. Right? So I'm going to ask you, I'm going to do a little mindfulness right now. This is the second activity. And I'm going to ask you to shut your cameras. And if you want to, it's optional. You don't have to. I'm going to keep mine on and I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to talk you through a very short visualization. So just start by taking a deep breath in and then just let it out slowly. Exhale. Oh, so important. So inhale. Another exhale. I know even when I'm talking and presenting, I have to do that, remind myself, because wow, it's intense. Breathing is so weird right now, right? Breathing, like I'm not supposed to breathe here. I can't breathe inside my mask. Should I wear a mask? Like, where do I breathe? But guess what? If we don't breathe, we're gonna get sick or we'll die or we'll have stress. Like it's very important to remember to ground yourself by breathing. Inhale and then exhale. And I want you to try to clear your mind. Just clear your mind. Forget about any other devices that are on. Be here now. Just listen to my voice. Sometimes an image helps. Like I use an image of just like a windshield wiper wiping the rain away. That just gets everything else out of my mind. Maybe for you, it is the forest or an ocean or a dewdrop, a sound of running water. Whatever it is for you, try to just neutralize yourself for just a couple seconds. Keep breathing. Don't forget to breathe. And I want you to think of someone that you appreciate. Someone that you appreciate. Someone in your life that could use to hear, like that you might want to share something pleasant about them. Somebody that maybe you haven't reached out to in a while that you really appreciate, like the word appreciate. And I want you to see their face. Keep breathing, see their face in your mind's eye, and notice the color of their skin, their eyes, the shape of their face. How is their hair? Is there a quality about this person that's amazing? What is the quality that you adore? Keep breathing. See that person. What is it that you appreciate about that person? It's the way they talk. If it's someone close to you, maybe it's they have a scent that you really remember. So see them, maybe you can hear their voice. And just sit with that for just a second. Sit with that feeling. And as you come back to being here, we say slowly flutter your eyes open and grab a piece of paper and a pencil and turn your cameras back on if you have them on. We love to see your faces. You are awesome and beautiful people. Thank you, Monique. Even I see half your face. You're still gorgeous. I know you smiled too, right? So now pen and paper. And take the words, I appreciate you. Write it at the top of your paper. I use a Post-it note. I appreciate you. I just put it on a Post-it note, really small. And write down 3 things that you appreciate about that person. I appreciate you because, I don't know. Write down 3 things. I'll put it in 3 things you appreciate about this person. Write down 3 things you appreciate about this person. When you're done, put your name in the chat box. now. Thanks for doing this mindful moment with me. Beautiful. So now what you're going to do is, with your smartphone, we're going to take a picture of what you appreciate, the picture of that, of the writing that you did. Take a picture of the writing, and you're going to text it to your person. That's called it's called real-time SEL. You are building relationships in real time, right? So you're going to text it to this person. If you're living in the house and you don't want to do it that way, leave it on the refrigerator, maybe on their pillow, like a note. Remember how we used to do that? And if they are, sometimes people choose people who are no longer with us, then I say, they heard you. Keep it in a jewelry box or someplace special for you. It's okay. Energy is energy. But whoever it is, you're going to give them a shout out right now in real time, making it relevant, making it, we call real-time SEL. If you get in the next 5 minutes a response, if you feel comfortable, you can share it in the chat box. It's so wonderful, right? My mom, oh, okay, so love you. And this one, I got one just now from my mom, because I sewed to my mom. She wrote, "Aw, love you and need that today." Right? So, okay. So, so if you want to put in the chat box, let everybody smile. It's really nice. Enrique, is that like some acronym? What does that mean? There you go. Lamelda.
Imelda, it mean that's my mom's name.
Oh, is that who you wrote to?
Imelda, yeah, it's IMELDA.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're coming down to the reflection, right? So you have the holistic wellness wheel. We're going to send you also the K through 5 wheel. Snapshot in time, staff and students, great icebreakers, quick pair shares, breakout rooms, conversation, pulse checks, really helping young people understand how to take baby steps to set goals. When we did a real-time SEL activity. So any reflections is to share, I do this all the time, one thing you liked today, learned, or surprised you. Anything that you like, learned, or surprised you today. That's the reflection question. I'm writing it in the chat box. Oh, Monique said friends just responded. Aw, thank you. I appreciate it. Nice. Okay, thanks, Emily. Okay, Emily says the process for discussing the wheel with students, like appreciation into action, right? The wheel is a great tool. You can unmute too, anything that you like, learned, or surprised you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that I really appreciate this because I've like through the summer right now, we have been in contact with students with like through newsletters and mainly like dropping off like art supplies for activities and stuff like that. I haven't tried doing like Zoom calls and discussions because they usually don't want to participate, but I think this would be a really fun activity. So I really appreciated even the one that we just did, the mindfulness one, and what you said it was called, real-time social emotional learning.
Yes.
So I like that. I think the kids are gonna be really maybe they will reach out to a friend they haven't talked to, so that'll be nice.
Thank you. Beautiful share. Appreciate that.
Julia, sometimes my mic sounds like I sound like a computer, so forgive me if that happens. But one of the things I liked about this aspect is that it helps the kids reflect that life is a journey. It's not a destination. And there are a lot of different things that happen along your journey that cannot be compared to someone else's. And it makes me think when I work with students, when we're in the field, is that the journey along the way, you have little landmarks that you can post down on your path. And it gives you an opportunity of looking back and seeing what those little tags or what those landmarks meant, and being able to take you there, and knowing that you can look at where you are versus where you were, and it gives you some type of a sense of control and empowerment. And I think that that's one of the things that the kids miss out on, that ability to be able to see, is that they're in a hurry to get somewhere, but you can't ask them what is that process. They're not aware of it. But when we do that journey, life is a journey, it gives them an opportunity to see where they were and different people who help them along their path. And it gives them that sense of empowerment and an opportunity to sometimes realize that sometimes you have to go backwards in order to go forward, and that you're failing forward. You're not failing, but you're failing forward. So I appreciate your.
That, thank you so much. You know, I want to also share, we call this session, if you can name it, you can claim it, right? Who's giving kids the vocabulary to talk about the way they behave, right? Vocabulary is very important for the academic and intellectual processing of behavior. Once they can name it, they can say, this is how I'm acting. I don't have any self-awareness right now because I'm angry, because I'm sad. I don't know how to control myself, right? Or as I'm getting better at it, I'm more self-aware. Who's giving them that language? You are now. You are. Use the wheel for vocabulary terms, right? Educate them, enlighten them, lift them up. I love this so much. I have to go to a call in Tampa. I'm supposed to be on it now. I put my email in the chat box. My website is there. We have a free SEL COVID guide. If you go to our website, which is right there, you can download it. It's 5 to 10 hours of SEL around the COVID crisis and how do you talk to your kids as they come back. The holistic wellness wheel is a COVID wheel. It's about, well, anyway, I'll let you guys do it. So anyway, Jessica and everyone at Foundations, Paula, thank you so much for bringing me in. What a surprise. And I will see you soon. Happy to do this again anytime, but I gotta fly.
Thank you, Julia. Thank you so much for joining us. We really
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye. I want to thank everybody else for joining us also. Work at Wednesday, same time, 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Please follow us on social media. Our director of social media put information in the chat box. And if you would join us at Beyond School Hours, we'd love to see you in February. So thanks again for joining us today, everyone.